You're listening to PROX.
When I make a film, I look forward to going off and writing a book, or I look forward to going up on tour as a musician. And when I come back and I make another film, I'm just filled up now, you know what I mean? And I have something else to say, in that department anyway. So, I've always encouraged anybody who's multifaceted as a creative, man, to just go out and do all these other things because they keep the well constantly flowing.
You're listening to In Proximity. Blitz Bazawule is a filmmaker, musician, visual artist, and author. Born in Ghana and based in New York, Blitz's feature directorial debut, The Burial of Kojo, was acquired by Array Releasing, the distribution arm of Ava DuVernay's production company, Array. It was released on Netflix in 2019. After that, Blitz co-directed Beyoncé's Black is King, which earned him a Grammy nomination in 2020. Blitz is the director of the upcoming The Color Purple musical for Warner Brothers, produced by Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, Quincy Jones, and Scott Sanders. As a musical artist, his albums include Diaspora, Afropolitan Dreams, Native Son, and Stereotype. His first novel, The Scent of Burnt Flowers, was published in 2022 and is being developed into a television series by FX, with Blitz producing. Blitz is also the founder of Africa Film Society and the recipient of the Guggenheim Fellowship, TED Fellowship, and the Vilcek Prize. Blitz met our founder, Ryan Coogler, at a TED conference, before Blitz shot his first film and before Ryan made Black Panther. They talk about their first meeting, multi-hyphenate artistry and the importance of creative rotation, and working as filmmakers who tell stories across the Black diaspora.
I'm Ryan Coogler. I'm one of the founders of Proximity Media. I'm also a writer, director, producer, and I'm here talking with my good friend, Blitz. I met him as Blitz the Ambassador, but I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, my name is Blitz Bazawule. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a writer, I'm a musician, I'm a visual artist. I'm originally from Ghana. I'm the founder of Inward Gaze, a creative company, and it's a pleasure to be here.
It's amazing, man. So, Blitz, we just were going back and forth about, when we actually met. And what's crazy is with technology and how we travel, we can go back to like the exact dates. We were talking about how it was February 2016.
Yes.
And we were at the TED conference.
Yes.
In Vancouver, of all places.
Of all places.
How'd you wind up getting there, bro?
So I became a TED fellow in 2016. So it's my first year as one of the TED fellows, and I also had the great privilege of performing on the main stage with my band. So that was my first time at the TED Con. It was overwhelming, man. There was so much going on. It was so many people, but it was also not as diverse a space back then. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing you way across the room. I was like, oh, that's another Black guy. I definitely got to go talk to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I came up, and that's when I recognized it. I was like, oh man, that's Ryan. I mean, I had already seen Fruitvale, of course, and I'd seen, of course, Creed. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that was how we met. But I will never forget this though. When you were like, yo, walk with me. And we walked over to the TED bookstore, and you were like, yo, I'll get you this book. It's going to change your life. And that was Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon.
Oh, man.
Yes. And legit, it is the book I've gifted. I've gifted that book to more people than I can count.
That's amazing.
And the principles of that book, bro, is how I get here, without a question.
Wow.
Without a question. We'll go in depth later, but I just, thank you for that, because that meant a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. I didn't even remember that, bro.
Yeah.
I was sitting there listening on the edge of my seat like, man, what did I do?
Yeah. No, man. It's a brilliant book. And I'll tell you the beauty about that book, though, is that it talked about how, as an artist, because, I come from hip hop, and biting is a cardinal sin, But biting is biting one person's style, right?
Yeah.
What the book taught me and taught us, was that your job is to figure out how to siphon from several people.
Yeah.
And that's how you create something special, right? And that was truly a revelation for me. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's amazing, man. I'm glad I was a positive influence. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure. For sure, man.
I remember, man, like I met you at a time when I needed you, bro. It was crazy about it because it was 2016. I had just gotten the job to co-write and direct Black Panther, the first one.
Yes, sir.
And I was just coming off of Creed. And it was maybe my third TED conference I had been to.
Mm-hmm.
But I always found it to be a place I was always thankful to be invited. But it was challenging, like in terms of finding people who looked like us back then, you know.
Indeed.
But something in my gut told me that I should go that year because I was making a film that was going to be so like science fiction forward. And we were wrapping our heads around it still, my co-writer Joe Robert Cole and I. But I felt like it would be important to go. And I also knew that year that I was going to try to get to the continent for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we met and we were talking about a lot of things, but really I was kind of asking you, like, where you from? And
yep.
It turned out we knew a few people in common, like Bradford Young and Terrence Nash, a few other folks in the music business. And I think on your badge, it might have said like artist or what have you, but
yep.
You were very music forward at the time.
Very.
And then as we started talking more, you started talking about that you were a filmmaker too.
Of course.
And I got really excited. But yeah, like I remember shortly after that, I hit you up about traveling to the continent to see if you had anybody in the places that I was looking to go. Cause you listed ambassador, of course you did. You know what I'm saying? You had somebody in every country.
I do.
But no, it was amazing, man. Like I'm glad that I could recommend anything for you, man. Cause the way you looked after me a few months later when it was time for me to make that first voyage home, it was just like the advice that you gave me and the folks that you connected me with, man. It was just incredible,
No, it's beautiful, man. And shout out to my girl Vuyi.
Oh yeah, big shout out to Vuyi.
Yeah, man. It was, and that's the beauty, right, of like diaspora work. When you've moved around enough to know enough people across the world. And that work for me has always been like the center, right? Everything we do, it kind of comes out of that creatively. But connecting people, connecting ideas, and vice versa, bro. Like, going back to Ghana, because you talk about this very critical point for you. For me, it was equally critical because I was transitioning from, like you said, music heavy. That's pretty much what I'd done for 10 years prior. But the challenge was that, I knew that the industry was plateauing in a way that I just would never be able to keep up, So I immediately was like, all right, my mom always used to say, use all your gifts, And I started as a visual artist, as a kid, I drew a lot. And that always told me that I had some visual qualities about how I saw things. And so I took full advantage of that meeting because, the other thing is you were like the first director who ever like talked to me.
Oh,
you
man.
know what I mean? Like, that's another thing. Like, when you're making these transitions in life, you never really know, like, you kind of show up with hopes, but like you were the first person that was like, yo, like, this is what I do. And of course I'd followed your work. And so I knew enough about what the spirit of the work you did, right? So anyway, going back to Ghana to make Burial of Kojo, man, I was like, I took all that you had kind of taught me in that brief moment of meeting, right? And made the movie. But the beauty of it was coming back, right? And sitting with you and Zinzi and getting incredible notes, right? For that film. And in all honesty, bro, like that was the beginning for me. Like this whole journey does not begin without that meeting at TED, coming back from Ghana with the film, and then kind of figuring out where to go from there.
Man, that's incredible, man. Like, I remember you, us staying in touch and you talking about, we would just stay active on WhatsApp. I remember you went to Senegal.
Yes.
It seemed like it was your first time maybe in Dakar.
It was my first time, yeah.
And it was an arts festival, I believe. And you were sending me pictures, images of, from the continent. This was before I had a chance to go.
Yeah.
And you were saying, man, look at what these artists are up to. I just met this guy who was doing this. I just met this person who's doing that.
Yeah.
And then Ludwig, our composer, Ludwig Göransson, one of our partners at Proximity, he ended up going to Senegal with his wife. Like shortly after that.
Wow.
To touch down and, fellowship with Baba Amal and get in touch with all the musicians out there.
Of course.
And I remember you it was a retina exhibit that was there and you sent that imagery and that was a big inspiration for me and Hannah Beekler, our production designer on Black Panther, sat down.
Wow.
But it was like a constant exchange. We were just exchanging music.
Constant.
And I remember when you were going to make your movie, set up your film offices and man, I remember the pictures that you were saying, and like you were saying, yo, I'm going to this village that's on the water.
Yep.
I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Here's our offices.
Yep.
And it was crazy inspiring. to watch the grind and to watch you achieve it. So when you came back with the movie and you had hit me and Zinzi up, Zinzi Coogler, who's my wife and also a founding partner at Proximity Media, you hit us up and was like, hey, man, I got the movie. I'd love for y'all to take a look, get some feedback. And I was just fired up to see it. Remember, we watched on the projector in our condo.
Yes.
And I think we went and got some food, like across the street.
Yeah, we went and got some food.
Yeah.
You guys broke down the notes for me.
Yeah.
And yo, it is, and I have to say, I mean, remember, the movie started completely different. Like that for me is the thing I always reference,
Yeah.
and you were like, nah, Blitz, this movie starts 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later. Like, you know what I mean? And at the time, of course, I'm over there going, wait, but
Sweating.
you don't understand. You know,
Yeah.
like this is, but then that's the beauty of these notes, right? It's just like in your sober moment, right? In your quiet moment, you can sit down and you can process them and you can go, yeah, man, he's right. It's starting, that's the wrong place to start, right? And that, I'll tell you, the beauty of that was that then Ava DuVernay, Ava, who runs Array and a prolific filmmaker herself.
Yeah, my big sister, our big sister.
Our big sister, right? Saw the
Yeah.
movie and was like, listen, Blitz, I'll give you a path. I'll give you a path. And that, I'm so grateful for that opportunity because, distribution is the other wing of what we do, right?
100%.
It's one thing to make a beautiful film. It's one thing to make a heartfelt film. The challenge is how is this movie communicated, right? And Ava embraced me as a young brother and really brought me up, showed me the ropes as well, right? From my first press conversations, we had a New York Times review. I mean, things that I'd never dreamt of, right?
Yeah.
And then Beyoncé sees that.
Yes.
Right, which becomes like, I go, it's like sometimes when you're beginning a journey, you really can't tell, where it all goes.
Right, right.
You just know that I have to do the absolute best I can at this moment, right? But you don't know what comes out of it.
Jesus.
And for Ava, you know what I mean? For Ava to put it up and for Beyonce to see it and be so moved that she was like, we're making Black is King, and I want you to come be involved with this with us, and help guide it, bro. That was like, oh, it's Beyonce, bro. Like, come on, like this is the greatest.
And the music that you started with music,
the music, bro, and I, it's just it was such a talk about a whirlwind, and we're only talking. We met in 16. I went back, made the movie 17, 18. I was back, right?
It was fast
to watch it with y'all and. 19 was when all of this happened. The movie came out on Netflix. 19.
Yeah.
I worked on Black is King in 19. And then 20, the pandemic hits.
Yeah.
And we're not done with Black is King.
Yeah.
Right. So now you're going, was this all?
Is it all gonna go away? Is my momentum gone? Yeah.
Is it all gonna go away?
Yeah.
But then the crazy thing is, while that window of uncertainty is happening, the film drops on Disney Plus. At the same time, same window, I get a call. Hey, Warner Brothers is looking to do Color Purple.
Mm-hmm.
Are you interested?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing has happened this quickly in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everything I've done has taken, 5-10 years, you know? This was insane because, bro, literally I got this job in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. I remember when you got it, bro.
It was, you were the first, what's crazy? First person I called.
Oh, man.
Bro, legit.
So I'll tell you this, Blitz, I was hearing about it from the other side. Because at Proximity, our first 2 film projects were at Warner Brothers. And we were working with Niger on Judas and the Black Messiah with Shaka.
Shout out to Niger.
Niger Kirkendall.
Incredible exec.
Yeah, she's at Netflix now, but she was at Warner Brothers then.
Yes.
And had been at Warner Brothers for I feel like over a decade at that time.
Yes.
Was really poised for major things.
Yes.
And was already doing major things at that time.
Indeed.
And we would talk about our other projects, and Color Purple was like her baby.
Yes.
And she was like, yeah, we bringing in Blitz. And I was like, oh, man. I was
yes.
like,
yes.
and I didn't want to advocate too hard, you know what I'm saying? Because, but I was keeping posted, man.
That's a blessing, bro.
And me and Zinzi was praying for you, bro.
Oh, give thanks, guys, because it truly was it was a whirlwind. Let's put it that way, and every time I'll get off one of these Zooms, whether with Oprah Winfrey, with Steven Spielberg, I'll just walk the block, bro, because I literally could not believe, I was home, my son was home with me, and, because everyone was doing school at home, right? So, I'll just be like, yo, kid, I'll be right back. I just walk the block because I just could not believe the blessing. You know, you pray for things, right? And you work hard for things. And you know, I'm also, you know, I come from a place where, you know, no one's done this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is something that we talk about a lot. You know, it's just we're first in these really incredible, you know, places. Now, of course, we stand on shoulders of people who have built this. But in terms of where the glass ceiling that we're cracking, you know, we're one of the first to do it.
So Blitz, man, just take me back, man. Like, take me back to Ghana, you know?
Yeah.
From how you were explaining it to me, your people are from the north, I believe you said, of Ghana?
Yep, the absolute north. We're from, you know, the Upper West region. My grandmother, you know, who ended up, you know, being the matriarch of our family. And in all honesty is where I get a lot of my creativity, without a doubt, and basic entrepreneurial spirit. You know, you know, she did some of everything, you know, but she was a phenomenal storyteller. And, you know, I always say, like, she was like the HBO, Netflix, you know, of the day before any of that existed, you know, because she could tell stories that were
amazing,
you know, that were visually you could see them. And we, you know, the beautiful thing about my family, even though we grew up in Accra, which is the most southern, we always went to visit. You know what I mean? And she's also where
so y'all traversing the state to go back to
constantly to the village, you know, and every vacation, you know, my parents would go, you know, just have us stay with her and the rest of my extended family there. And we farmed. We did a lot of things, you know, and the beautiful thing I learned there was this idea of crop rotation, which I've kind of now evolved into creative rotation, right?
Crop rotation, man, talk to us about that.
So crop rotation pretty much is, you know, when they plant certain plants, right, they use up all the nutrients.
In the soil?
In the soil, exactly.
Okay.
So you have to plant something that will, you know, replenish that soil, right? And, you know, a lot of leguminous like crops do that. You know, they give the earth more nitrogen and such. Anyway, but that's a thing that my grandma would explain to us, you know, just like why it's important to keep it rotational, right? and, you know, as I grew up as an artist, the beautiful thing that I've been able to hold on to, that piece of knowledge, is constantly figuring out how to evolve creatively and never allowing, because, you know, when you're fixated on one creative endeavor, what happens is that inevitably it starts to wane. And the soil, which is you, starts to kind of wane, right?
Bliss, I got full body chills right now, sir.
Yo, but that's that OG knowledge. Though,
keep going, bro, because you blowing my mind.
Bro, and that the beautiful thing is, you know, a lot of people go, yo, Blitz, you do this, you do this, you do that. How do you do it all? You know, and that legitimately directly relates to my time on the farms with my grandmother, understanding how it's critical for change. You know what I mean? And what happens is that when you come back and you plant that thing, it absorbs so much more now because you've replenished the nutrients, right, in the soil. And so like when I make a film, you know, I look forward to going off and writing a book, or I look forward to going out on tour as a musician. And when I come back and I make another film, you know, I'm just filled up now, you know what I mean? And I have something else to say, you know, in that department anyway. So, you know, I've always encouraged anybody who's multifaceted as a creative, man, to just go out and do all these other things because they keep the well constantly flowing. I grew up in Ghana in late 80s, early 90s. And Ghana at the time was going through quite a bit of a transition, right? We had existed in kind of more of like a dictatorship for a little bit, and it was transitioning to a more democratic country, which now has become one of the most stable countries on the continent. But that period was kind of like transitional, and the music and works that were coming out of that time were quite, they weren't as politically or socially because of the level of stifling, right, of information, right?
Yeah.
But what happened was that hip hop dropped sometime in the late 90s, right? I'm sorry, early 90s. And one of the biggest transitions was when Public Enemy came to Ghana in 1992.
Come on,
at the
man.
height, bro. At the height of Fight the Power, bro. And it was.
Oh,
I remember.
man.
I remember the transitions. I remember just the.
But Blitz, bro, what's crazy about that is I believe Fight the Power was done for Do the Right Thing, right?
It was done for Do the Right Thing. Exactly.
So that's hip hop, film.
Yes. Everything. Like
together.
Landing in Ghana at that time, right? And we could, again,
Come on, man.
We could not believe the sheer energy and force of this culture,
Yeah.
And it for us, we became beneficiaries, right, of our brothers and sisters far away, far removed, right, dealing with, because you also got to remember early 90s, Rodney King, all these other things happening. And, and the information about Blackness in America is completely opposite of what the music is telling us, right?
Yeah.
At the time, right? And so that transition for me, and that was kind of formative years for me, right?
Yes.
Was just understanding that, wow, man, like, okay, if I too was able to hone this power of words, right? I too could communicate far across shores, right? That became my obsession,
right?
And so and thank God back then hip hop was also continent facing.
Yeah,
right? I mean, you're talking native tongues, you're talking De La.
I mean, there's an argument, like there's an argument that be made, or like a belief system that people have that all Black art, Black being an African American art, those of us that was transported here by captors, and those of us that came from various diasporas,
yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
that all the music made is a call home.
100%.
Hey, we still here.
100%.
We out here. Are y'all there?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's mind blowing to me.
Yes.
You know that would be an inflection point for you when Public Enemy comes to Ghana. You know what I'm saying?
It's insane, bro. And the beautiful thing is, my understanding of art became so much more expansive. Because now PE is not only telling me about music, it's telling me about books to read. So like, I'm finding Carter G. Woodson, I'm finding, and through all of this stuff, right? Through all of this stuff, I have the blessing and privilege to now travel to the United States as a student, and I went to Kent State University, which was, on surface was, probably one of the whitest institutions you could probably ever go to.
Right.
But it had one of the most incredible Pan-African studies departments in the country.
Right.
And I was very lucky to land with some incredible professors that would kind of like feed me, some more of what I did not know, right? And in a way, I came to understand the complexities of the continent more as a college student, in Ohio, of all places, right? Because of course now, you're at the intersection of all of this information, right? Of writers, of philosophers, of idea people who have been able to put together why the things are the way they are, right? But now I can also look at it from a multi-dimension, like multiple prisms of, oh wait, it ain't just Africa, bro. It's the US, it's the Caribbean, it's Latin America.
That's when it turned on for me too, bro.
Wow.
Like in college, man, I was in Sacramento State, but it was some folks there from the continent.
Wow.
That I'll be in business school with.
Wow.
And I remember it was a cat from Sudan.
Wow.
Who I was talking to. We were hearing a lot about Darfur. And,
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Wow.
And shouts out to Amar Muhammad, who works, supports me as my assistant at Proximity. He's Sudanese.
Amazing.
Out of Flint, Michigan, Wow. But I remember my boy Amir, man. I say, bro, like, talk to me about, and he was the first, he turned around, man, in the middle of business class and said, have you heard of the Scramble for Africa?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, bro.
Wow.
I'm like, nah, I ain't heard of that. He was
Wow.
like, and he was such an interesting dude, man, because he had cerebral palsy.
Wow.
And he kind of talked like this. He
Wow.
said, man,
Wow.
he said, cool, have you heard about the Scramble for Africa?
Wow.
Wow. I'm like, nah, man. So he put me on right then and there.
Wow.
We was like an accounting class or something. You know what I'm saying? But it's just interesting that it would happen for you there.
Yes.
Because that's how it happened for me, bro. You know what I'm saying?
It's incredible, man. And again, I look back at, the journey that you don't know what the path is, right? What I have 100% understood, even back when I was in Ghana as a kid, was that something was always odd to me around the fact that you got 1.2 billion Africans, and then the diaspora, let's add another 500 million across the board, right?
Yes, sir.
Easy, right? And look, if we do the math, we're trending somewhere around 1/3 of the human population, right, on Earth, right?
Yeah.
And my concern, even when I was young, and I couldn't probably articulate it like this when I was younger, but I always knew something was odd around the fact that this many people, again, we're not talking about a very tiny population, we're talking about a significant chunk of this planet, has so little influence and space in everything. We're talking arts, politics. I mean, I never understood why we knew so much around the world and no one knew anything about us, and vice versa.
Right.
I never understood how, the UN General Council was structured the way they were and who had permanent seats and who didn't.
Right.
I mean, there were all these things that just never made sense. Even the World Cup used to blow my mind, right?
Right.
I'm a big football soccer fan, right?
Right.
And like, I never understood why there were so many European teams in the World Cup and so few Africans.
Right.
Again, I was just talking straight numerics. I didn't understand prejudice fully at that time, but
you're looking at it like a math problem.
That's it. And as the kids say, the math was not mathing.
Math wasn't adding up.
You know what I mean? So anyway, all of that has just really led me to this deep curiosity around why, and also assert ourselves in all spaces to make sure that we are represented in these spaces, right? And that has kind of become a mission for me, creatively, certainly, but personally as well. It's just to make sure that we are at the table. Because when you are at the table, then you can say, nah, that ain't the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yes,
but when you're not there, these decisions are being made for you.
Yes.
Anyway, so all that to say that was kind of my journey early to arrive at, where I met you, which was, I'd come to the States, I'd traveled, I'd gone out with my band, learned a lot around the world, connected with lots of people. And then I found myself at a place where I realized that I needed to expand this creative voice of mine, right?
Mm.
And I needed to implement more this idea of creative rotation, right? And allow myself to also not be so emotionally vested, you know what I mean, in any one thing.
Right.
So like I never stop. I'm not checking reviews. I'm not doing none of that.
Yeah.
Like I have my circle that gives
bro.
me feedback on work, but
so smart.
But the thing is, like, when I find that if you are hyper-focused, then all the metrics of that specific creative endeavor mean everything to you. Right. So if your book ain't a bestseller, if you're not, a Pulitzer Prize winner, if you're not all these things, then you start to feel less than, right?
Yes.
And what I've learned is that if you just do the work, just to do the work, and just to go, you know what, the work exists, and that's the only reason I'm here, is to make sure the work exists, and then I can move on to the next thing without waiting for the metrics to add up. I'm just emotionally, I'm just in a better place. And it's really, really about my mental health.
Blitz, man, this church right here you talking, bro. I just checked to see if it was Sunday.
It is Saturday, bro.
I just checked the calendar, bro, because I was like, my man preaching, because it's so truthful, man. Let me tell you something, bro. I never told you this, man. But you talked about me recommending that book.
Yes.
We had an exchange, bro, at that conference, man, that really opened something up for me that has never been closed, man. And I never had a chance to thank you. You might not even remember this, bro. But you and your band, y'all performed, man.
Yes.
And y'all rocked the stage, bro, at that conference. And that's an insanely white space in 2016, February, Vancouver.
Very.
It was cold.
Very.
And the rooms was predominantly white. I gotta imagine it's different now. You know what I'm saying? Like if you go to the conference.
Of course.
But that was what it was in 16. We was in there. And I remember after, man, y'all killed it, bro. And I hollered at you immediately after to tell you how much I loved it. And I could tell something had frustrated you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I say, hey, man, bro, you good. And it was somebody after the performance who I think might have tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, man, great energy out there. And then you said, man, what they don't understand is what I just did was scientific.
Wow. I forgot that.
It blew my mind, bro.
I forgot that.
Because you were able to articulate, you articulated my experience watching you perform in that space, and you articulated an experience that I've had before at different times in my life. Where I had given my all at something.
Yes.
And it wasn't recognized for what it was. You know what I mean? Because of the culture that it was wrapped in.
Yes.
And
yes.
I've carried that, bro. I've thought about that moment, bro.
Damn.
Not just the moment, but how you articulated it. I've thought about that, bro, for like since that day.
Bro, I forgot that.
I can't look at a person of African descent doing anything the same, bro.
Wow.
Like cooking, sports, entertainment.
Yes.
Things that are on the surface scientific, things that aren't.
Yes.
Acts which might be deemed as criminal.
Yes. Yes.
All of these things, like something in me shifted.
Wow.
And it also made me like understand you. And I said, this dude is gonna go far, man. Like it's just an exchange.
Bro.
That you were able to have a moment like that. And then articulate it to me so
wow.
You know, you broke it down so clearly. I said, man, this dude is gonna be big. And it was some truth in that also like gave me a lot of relief.
Wow.
Just in terms of like extending people grace, bro,
wow.
when they try to judge what we do.
Yes.
Through this lens.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Very
like,
narrow lens. Very narrow lens.
It's like having an extreme telephoto lens on a camera in a place that should have a wide shot.
Absolutely. 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 Man, bro, you just reminded me, man, you reminded me of something that I've been, you know, and we still deal with that. You know what I mean? We're still dealing with the fact that our creative, like somehow we're just spontaneously like combusting. You know what I mean? Right? Like when you make art,
totally.
When you make art, it's science, bro. Like, you know, you're taking all those things that you're synthesizing it through a scientific prism. You know what I mean? And you know, and I think for me the challenge is like, you know, for instance, when they see like a drum circle, right? A drum circle it's science. Like everybody knows what exact moment to hit that drum. You know what I mean? But it will never, you know, versus a symphony orchestra. And that for me has been something that I've been, you know, I've come to understand the prisms are different. And it's important. It wouldn't matter if we could both appreciate our prisms. You know what I mean? And like you said, if we could all do the wide shot.
Yeah.
You know, if everybody could come in and go, okay, we all gonna experience this as a wide, you know, as opposed to this extreme close-up where you're honing in on something that it isn't truly representative.
Yeah.
Prox Recs.
So now we're going to get into our segment, which is called Prox Recs. And this is where our proximity hosts and our guests give the audience one recommendation that might be helpful for them in their professional or personal lives. My Prox Rec is going to be a little bit of a cheat this time. I'm going to recommend Blitz's album, Diaspora.
Woo!
That's going to be my Prox Rec today. Y'all search on y'all streaming platforms for Blitz the Ambassador, Diaspora album. I love that album.
Thank you, brother.
It's beautiful representation of some of the things that we're talking about. The artwork on it is beautiful. I think Blitz did that himself as well.
No, I did not. Oh,
you didn't do it?
No,
okay.
no.
Who did that art on?
A brilliant artist called Oliver did it. Oliver's great. Yeah.
Okay. So shouts out to Oliver. But Blitz is a phenomenal visual artist as well, painter. So I thought that might have been him on that. But big shouts out to Oliver. But I would ask that you guys engage with that album. I think y'all will love it, find it motivating. It's great to write to, great to listen to in the car. That's my Prox Rec. But Blitz, where you at with it?
Thanks, man. For me, man, it would be the Steve Jobs bio, man. I think every creative person should read it. It's written by Walter Isaacson. It's one of the most incredible books I've read, just in terms of what it takes to see a brilliant idea through. You know, the other thing I learned about from that book was this idea of end-to-end encryption, right? And this idea that you don't only, you know, create the software, you create the hardware, and you create the marketing schemes, and you create the stores in which your work will live. And we were just talking about a second ago about, you know, marketing as the final frontier of filmmaking, right? And the fact that the artist has to be responsible for the entire gamut. Like you can't do a bit of it and feel like, oh, that's all. You know, you have to be able to handle the entire thing. So it's a huge inspiration for me. It also taught me about retreats. You know what I mean? For groups, you know, my crew, Inward Gaze, and we take retreats. Myself, Gabby, Natalia, Taryn. We go out, you know, different cities and just camp out, you know, and talk about the vision for the company and the vision for things that we want to do, you know? So incredible book, worth reading.
Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. Blitz, man, it's been amazing spending some time with you.
Bro, it's an honor, privilege.
I'm thankful that you took out the time because I know you're busy, man. It means a lot to us at Proximity. And I think I gotta imagine audiences will appreciate hearing from you, man. And best of luck, man.
Thank you.
Finishing up Color Purple. So looking forward to it coming out this Christmas.
Yeah, it's an incredible cast, man. I'm very lucky to have, you know, such brilliant, talented people. Coleman Domingo, Taraji P. Henson, Daniel Brooks, Corey Hawkins, Fantasia Barrino, just Halle Bailey, John Batiste, bro. It's Anjanou Ellis, you know, bro.
Murderers Row.
Bro, it was talk about a blessing. And again, for me, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you, Zinzi. Thank you to the Proximity crew, man.
In Proximity is a production of Proximity Media. If you like the show, be sure to follow, rate, and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. And tell your friends and loved ones to do the same. You can do that right now. Send a link to someone who you think might really like this conversation. Learn more and read transcripts of this episode and others, plus get links to the projects discussed at proximitymedia.com. Don't forget to follow @ProximityMedia on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. The show is produced by me, Paola Mardo. Executive producers are Ryan Coogler, Zinzi Coogler, Sev Ohanian, and me. Our theme song and additional music is composed by Ludwig Göransson. Ken Nana is our sound designer and mix engineer. Paulina Cherizova is our production assistant. Audio editing for this episode is by Cameron Kell. Special thanks to the whole Proximity Media team and to you for listening to In Proximity. Meet you back here next week.
Color Purple is a great launch pad for us.
Yes.
And God willing, my book, which we didn't really even talk about, you know, but it has been optioned by FX, and we're in the midst of turning that into a 6-part series for FX.
Amazing. Congratulations, bro.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. So, you know, like even that, it's like that's something that Inward Gaze is slowly building up to in terms of its muscle.
Yeah.
And bro, you know I'll be calling you.
Nah, y'all off to the races, man. That's incredible news, Blitz.